The morning began without any urgency. There was no sudden sound, no alarm, no voices calling from outside. The world was already awake, but it did not rush anyone to move. A pale grey light rested gently on the wooden walls of a small stone house. The light did not shine brightly. It simply existed quietly, as if it had always been there. Inside the house, a man lay still on a narrow bed made of wood and straw. The mattress was firm, uneven, and familiar. It had been the same for many years. The man did not move at first. His breathing was slow, even, unconcerned. He was not thinking about the day ahead. He was not planning anything. His mind was empty, like a calm field after harvest. After a long moment, he opened his eyes, not wide, just enough. The ceiling above him was made of thick wooden beams, darkened by age and smoke. He had seen this ceiling every morning of his life. It offered no surprises. He closed his eyes again. Then, slowly, he opened them once more. There was no reason to hurry. Outside, somewhere far away, a rooster made a soft sound. Not loud, not demanding, just a reminder that time was moving forward, whether anyone noticed or not. The man took a slow breath, then another. Finally, he shifted his weight and sat up on the edge of the bed. His feet touched the cold stone floor. The stone felt the same as it always did, cool, solid, unmoving. He rested his hands on his knees and stayed like that for a while. Sitting, breathing, waiting. Nothing else happened. When he stood, he did so carefully. His joints moved with the memory of many mornings just like this one. There was no pain worth mentioning, only stiffness that faded as he stood quietly. He walked across the room. The room was small. One table, one stool, a clay jug near the wall. Everything had its place. Everything had always been in that place. He reached for the jug and poured water into a simple wooden cup. The water was cool. He drank slowly. Each swallow was unimportant. Each moment passed without meaning. When the cup was empty, he placed it back on the table, not perfectly aligned, just close enough. He washed his face with a small amount of water, letting it run down and drip onto the floor. The drops made no sound that mattered. After that, he stood still again. There was no mirror. There was no need to look at himself. He already knew how he looked. He had always looked this way. He put on his tunic, brown, worn, soft from years of use. He tied a simple cord around his waist. The knot was loose, then adjusted, then left as it was. Outside the door, the village waited, not actively, not eagerly. It simply existed. He opened the wooden door. The hinges made a quiet sound, the same sound they made every day. Cool morning air entered the room. It carried no strong smell, just earth, stone, old wood. He stepped outside. The village was still half asleep. Stone houses stood quietly along a narrow dirt path. No one spoke, no one waved. A cat sat near a wall, unmoving, watching nothing in particular. The man walked slowly along the path. His steps were even, measured, predictable. He did not think about where he was going. His body already knew. At the edge of the village there was a small well. It had been there longer than anyone could remember. He stopped beside it. The bucket rested where it always did. He picked it up. The rope slid over the stone edge with a dull, familiar friction. Down it went. He waited. Then he pulled. The bucket returned, heavy with water. He lifted it carefully and poured some into another container he had brought with him. He did this twice. No more, no less. Then he placed the bucket back exactly where it belonged. He stood there for a moment longer, listening to nothing. When he returned to his house, the light had changed slightly. The grey had become softer, warmer. Inside, he placed the water container near the wall. Then he sat down on the stool. He waited again. This waiting was not boredom. It was not anticipation. It was simply part of the morning. Eventually, he stood and took a small piece of bread from a cloth on the table. The bread was dry. He broke it in half. He ate slowly. Each bite required effort. Each chew was deliberate. There was no taste worth describing. When he finished, he wiped his hands on his tunic. He did not rush to do anything else. Instead, he sat again. Time moved quietly. Outside, someone passed by, their footsteps soft on the dirt path. A door closed somewhere. A bird landed on a roof, then left. The man remained still. Eventually, he stood again. It was time to work. His work was not important. It never had been. He walked beyond the village toward the fields. The path was uneven but familiar. His feet adjusted without thought. The fields stretched out slowly without beauty or drama. Rows of earth waited to be tended. He picked up a simple tool resting near a fence. The handle fit his hand as it always had. He began. The movement was repetitive. Lift, press, pull. Again, lift, press, pull. His breathing matched the rhythm. Nothing changed. The sky remained pale. The ground remained firm. Minutes passed, or hours. It was difficult to tell. He stopped only when his body suggested it. He stood upright and looked around. Nothing demanded attention. So he returned to his work. As the sun climbed higher, the light became steady and calm. There were no clouds worth noticing. He paused again and drank from his water container. The water was neither cold nor warm. He drank slowly. Then he sat on a low stone near the field. He rested. No thoughts entered his mind. The field did not change. The village did not change. The day did not change. Eventually, he stood again. More work. The same movements. The same pace. By the time the sun reached its highest point, he stopped. He returned the tool to its place. He walked back toward the village. His steps were slower now, not from exhaustion, but from habit. At his house, he entered quietly. Inside, the air was still. He sat down. He ate another small piece of bread. He drank water. He rested. The afternoon passed without announcement. Light shifted across the floor. Dust floated in the air. He did nothing for a long time. Then he stood and stepped outside again. He checked a small wooden fence. It stood as it always had. He adjusted one loose piece, then he left it alone. As evening approached, the village became slightly more active. Someone spoke briefly. Someone laughed once. Then silence returned. The man returned inside. He sat. He waited. When the light faded, he lay down on his bed. The ceiling looked the same. His breathing slowed. The day ended exactly as it had begun. Without meaning, without urgency, without change. And as the quiet settled into the walls, the floor, and the air itself, the world continued doing nothing at all. The afternoon arrived without being noticed. There was no clear moment when it began. The light simply changed very slowly, as if the sun itself had grown tired of moving quickly. Inside the small stone house, the man remained seated. He had not fallen asleep. He had not been fully awake either. He sat on the wooden stool, his back lightly resting against the wall, his hands folded loosely in his lap. His breathing was steady and shallow, calm enough to forget. The room was quiet. So quiet that the sound of his breathing felt unnecessary. A thin line of sunlight rested on the stone floor, unmoving for a long time. Dust drifted slowly through the air, floating without purpose. The man did not look at the dust. He did not look at anything. Time passed. Eventually he stood, not because he needed to, not because something called him. He stood because his body remembered standing at this time of day. He walked to the table and touched the surface lightly with his fingertips. The wood felt warm from the sun. He moved the cup slightly, and then he moved it back. That was enough. He opened the door and stepped outside again. The village looked the same. Stone houses stood quietly. The dirt path showed the marks of many footsteps, none of them important. A few villagers moved slowly, each absorbed in their own routine. No one spoke to him. No one expected anything from him. That was normal. He walked toward the far end of the village where a small storage shed leaned gently against another stone wall. The door was open. Inside, tools rested in familiar places. He picked up a basket. The basket was light. He carried it toward a small patch of land near the edge of the fields. The path there curved slightly, worn smooth by years of walking. When he reached the patch, he knelt down. The earth was dry. He placed the basket beside him and began working with his hands, pulling weeds slowly, carefully, one at a time. He placed each weed into the basket. He did not rush. There was no reason to. The sun remained steady overhead, neither hot nor cold. As he worked, his breathing matched the rhythm of his movements. Reach, pull, place, again, reach, pull, place. Nothing interrupted him, no sudden sound, no thought. His mind stayed empty, like a field after harvest. After a long while, the basket was half full. He stopped. Not because the work was done, but because stopping felt correct. He sat back on his heels and looked at the ground. The ground looked unchanged. He stood and stretched slowly. Then he picked up the basket and carried it back toward the shed. Inside, he emptied the basket into a larger container. The weeds made a soft sound as they fell. He placed the empty basket back where it belonged. Outside, the light had shifted slightly again. The afternoon was moving toward evening. The man walked back through the village. A child passed by, walking quietly, not running. A woman stood near a doorway, folding cloth, slowly. No one noticed him. No one needed to. He returned to his house and closed the door behind him. Inside, the air felt still. He sat again. This time, he leaned his head back slightly and closed his eyes, not to sleep, just to rest. His breathing slowed even more. Minutes passed, or perhaps longer. The world did not announce the passing of time. Eventually, he opened his eyes again. The light in the room had softened. He stood and poured himself more water. He drank. Then he rinsed the cup and placed it upside down on the table. He adjusted the stool slightly, then sat again. The afternoon continued to fade. Outside, sounds grew quieter. The village seemed to slow down as a whole, as if everyone had silently agreed to move less. The man stood once more and stepped outside. He walked to the edge of the village and looked toward the fields. The fields looked peaceful, unchanged. He stayed there for a while, standing, breathing. Eventually, he turned back. At home, he prepared a very simple meal, a small piece of bread, a bowl of thin soup. He ate slowly. Each spoonful felt the same. There was no flavor worth remembering. He finished without thinking about it. The light faded further. Shadows grew longer. The man sat quietly until the room grew dim. He lit a small candle. The flame was steady and calm. He watched it for a moment. Then he looked away. As evening settled in, the village grew silent. Doors closed gently. Footsteps disappeared. The world felt smaller, safer. The man lay down on his bed. He pulled a thin blanket over himself. The ceiling beams looked darker now. His breathing slowed. He did not think about the day. He did not think about tomorrow. There was nothing to think about. The candle burned low. Eventually, he blew it out. Darkness filled the room. The world rested, and nothing happened. The evening arrived without announcement. There was no signal to mark its beginning. The light outside simply continued to soften, becoming less sharp, less defined, until the edges of things no longer mattered. Inside the small stone house, the man remained lying on his bed. His eyes were open, but his awareness was light, the kind of awareness that does not attach itself to thoughts. The room felt still. The air was neither warm nor cold, it simply existed. His breathing moved slowly without effort, in, out. Each breath felt the same as the one before. After some time, he sat up, not suddenly, not with intention. He moved because his body remembered this moment of the evening. He swung his feet to the floor and sat quietly for a while. The floor was cool beneath his feet. He stood, slowly. He adjusted the blanket on the bed, smoothing it once, then smoothing it again, even though it did not need it. Then he stepped toward the small window. Outside, the village looked quieter than before. The paths were mostly empty. A faint sound of someone closing a door echoed briefly, then disappeared. The man rested his hand on the window ledge. The stone felt solid, unchanging. He looked out, but did not search for anything. The sky was pale, not dark yet, just resting between light and night. He stepped away from the window and returned to the center of the room. He picked up the wooden stool and moved it closer to the wall. Then he moved it back slightly. Then he sat. Time passed. It passed so gently that it did not leave a mark. The man remained seated. His shoulders relaxed. His hands rested loosely in his lap. His breathing slowed further, in, out. Eventually he stood again. He reached for a small cloth and folded it once, then unfolded it, then folded it again. He placed it on the table. The action felt complete. Outside, the light faded further. The edges of buildings softened. Shadows blended together. The man opened the door and stepped outside. The cool evening air brushed against his face. It felt familiar. He walked slowly through the village. The stones beneath his feet were smooth, worn down by years of walking. His steps made almost no sound. A lantern glowed faintly in the distance. Someone else was awake, but it did not matter who. He reached the edge of the village again. The fields beyond were quiet, still. The tall grass barely moved. The man stood there for a long time, not thinking, not waiting, just standing. His breathing matched the stillness around him. Slow, even, unchanging, the sky continued its gradual shift. Colors faded into one another. Eventually, he turned back. He walked the same path home. Nothing had changed. That felt comforting. Inside the house, the darkness had grown deeper. He lit the candle again. The flame flickered once, then settled. The light it gave was soft and small. Enough. He sat near the table and rested his hands on his knees. The candle burned quietly. The man watched it without focusing. Time continued. Slow, gentle, uninterrupted. When the candle had burned lower, he stood and moved closer to the bed. He adjusted the blanket again. He sat on the edge of the bed, then lay down. His body sank into the mattress. The blanket rested lightly over him. The ceiling beams above him faded into shadow. His breathing became deeper, slower. Each breath felt heavier, more complete. Outside, the village slept. Inside, the world grew smaller. The man closed his eyes. This time, he did not open them again. Thoughts did not arrive. Memories did not appear. The day slipped away without resistance. The candle burned out on its own. Darkness filled the room. The night continued. Nothing happened. The night did not announce itself. It simply continued. Darkness rested gently over the village, unchanged and unhurried. Inside the small stone house, the man lay asleep. His body was still. His breathing was slow. In, out. Each breath sounded the same as the last. Nothing moved in the room. The air remained cool. The walls held their shape. The floor stayed firm beneath the bed. Time passed without effort. Outside, the village remained quiet. No footsteps, no voices, only the distant sound of the wind brushing against stone and wood. It came and went softly. The man turned slightly in his sleep, not because of a dream, not because of discomfort, simply because the body remembered how to rest. His blanket shifted a little, then became still again. Hours passed. The night remained the night. No clocks marked the time, no bells rang. The sky above slowly deepened, though no one watched it. The man's breathing grew heavier, slower, deeper. Each breath settled fully before the next one arrived. His mind stayed empty. No images, no words, no stories, just darkness and rest. Outside, the fields beyond the village lay flat and silent. Grass did not move. Trees stood without motion. The earth rested. At some point, a faint change occurred. Not a sound, not a movement, just the slow approach of morning far away, still unseen, still unfelt. The man slept through it all. His face remained relaxed, his brow smooth, his hands loose at his sides. The night continued to stretch, long, even, unbroken. A soft breeze passed through the village. It brushed the stone walls. It touched the roof of the house. It slipped past the closed door. Inside, it barely changed the air. The man did not stir. His breathing stayed steady. In, out. Time passed again, and again, and again, each moment nearly identical to the one before. The darkness began to thin, almost imperceptibly. Not light yet, just less dark. The sky shifted quietly. Inside the room, shapes slowly returned. The outline of the bed, the faint edge of the table, the wall beside the window. The man remained asleep. His body accepted the approaching morning without resistance. The air cooled slightly, then settled. Somewhere far away, a single bird shifted on a branch. It did not sing, it simply adjusted its position. The man breathed, slow, deep, unaware. Minutes passed, or hours. It did not matter. Gradually the darkness softened. Grey light crept gently into the room. It did not rush. It did not demand attention. The man stirred faintly, not awake, not dreaming, just drifting. His fingers moved slightly, then rested again. The room brightened by degrees, very small degrees, the kind that are only noticed after time has already passed. Outside, the village remained silent, doors closed, paths empty. The morning arrived quietly. The man's breathing changed subtly, still slow, still deep, but lighter. Eventually, his eyes opened, not suddenly, not fully, just enough to let the light in. He did not move. He simply lay there, watching nothing, thinking nothing. The ceiling beams rested above him, unchanged, familiar. He blinked once, then again. The morning light filled the room evenly. There were no shadows worth noticing. He remained still. The day had begun, but there was no reason to hurry. After a long while, he shifted onto his side, then onto his back again. His breathing stayed calm. His body stayed heavy. Time continued forward, quietly, patiently. Eventually he sat up, slowly. He let his feet rest on the floor. The stone felt cool, solid. He sat there, not planning, not preparing, just sitting. The morning waited, it did not push, it did not ask. The man stood. He stretched slightly, not fully, just enough. He walked to the window and looked outside. The village was still asleep, or pretending to be. He rested his hand on the stone. It felt the same as always. He stood there for a long time, breathing, watching nothing in particular. The day was ready, but it did not begin yet. The day did not begin in any special way. It simply continued from the night. The light outside was soft and pale, not bright, not warm, just present. Inside the stone house, the man stood quietly. He did not rush. There was no reason to. Time waited for him. He moved slowly across the room. Each step was steady, predictable, unchanged. The wooden floor creaked slightly. The sound was familiar. It meant nothing. He reached for a simple cup resting on the table. The cup was plain, no decoration. It had been there for years. He filled it with water. The water made no sound worth remembering. He drank slowly, one small sip, then another. The water was cool. It had no strong taste. It did its job and disappeared. He placed the cup back on the table, exactly where it had been before. The room remained quiet, no voices, no movement. Outside, the village stayed still, doors closed, paths empty. The morning stretched lazily. The man sat down on a wooden stool. It was worn smooth from use. He did not complain. He rested his hands on his knees. They stayed there, not moving. His breathing stayed calm. In, out, in, out. Minutes passed. Nothing changed. Eventually he stood again, slowly, without effort. He opened the door. The hinges made a soft sound, not loud, not important. The air outside was cool, fresh, unremarkable. He stepped onto the dirt path. The ground felt firm, dry. The village looked the same as it always did. Stone houses, wooden doors, empty space. No one greeted him. No one noticed. He walked forward, one step, then another. His pace was even, never fast, never slow, just steady. The sky above was pale blue, no clouds worth mentioning. He passed by a wall, then another. A small breeze touched his face, then moved on. He reached the edge of the village. Fields spread out quietly, green and flat. He stood there, looking, not thinking. The fields did not move. The earth rested. After a long moment he turned back. There was nothing else to do. He returned along the same path. Each step felt the same as before. Back inside the house, the air felt familiar, safe. He closed the door. The sound faded quickly. He sat again. The stool waited. Time continued to pass, smoothly, without interruption. The light shifted slightly, almost unnoticeable. The man remained still, breathing, resting. His thoughts did not form. They drifted away before becoming anything. At some point, hunger arrived. Quietly, without urgency, he stood and prepared a simple meal. Bread, plain, dry. He ate slowly, each bite the same. No flavors stood out, no pleasure, no displeasure, just eating. He finished. He wiped his hands. The dishes were cleaned, placed back where they belonged. Nothing changed. The afternoon approached, soft, dull. The man sat by the window. Light filled the room gently. He watched shadows shift, slowly. Outside, the village remained calm, still. Time stretched again, long, even. The man's eyes grew heavy, not tired, just relaxed. He lay down on the bed. The mattress welcomed him. He closed his eyes. Breathing slowed, deepened. The afternoon passed quietly. When he woke, nothing felt different. The light had changed. That was all. He sat up, stood, moved. The day continued. There was no event, no moment, no meaning, just time moving forward. The evening came softly. The man prepared another simple meal, ate, cleaned. The sky outside darkened, slowly. He lit a small candle. The flame was steady. He sat and watched it, not thinking. The flame did not flicker much. Minutes passed. The candle burned lower. The man remained calm. Eventually, he blew out the flame. Darkness returned. He lay down again. His breathing slowed. The day ended without notice. The night returned. Nothing mattered. And rest came easily. The day continued without asking anything. It did not expect attention. It simply existed. The man woke slowly. Not suddenly, not fully, just enough. His eyes opened halfway. The room was quiet, unchanged. The ceiling looked the same. The walls stayed still. He did not rush to stand. There was no need. He stayed where he was, breathing. In, out, in, out. The air felt cool, soft. After a while, he moved his hands, slowly, without thought. He sat up, paused. Nothing happened. Eventually he stood. His feet touched the floor. The floor felt solid, reliable. He stretched slightly, not fully, just enough to move. The window let in pale light, not bright, not warm. He walked toward it, each step quiet. Outside, the village rested, paths empty, doors closed. No sounds reached him. He turned away, moved toward the table. The cup waited there, exactly as before. He filled it with water. The motion was slow, practiced. He drank small sips. The water disappeared, leaving nothing behind. He placed the cup down. Time passed. He stood without reason, then sat again. The room remained patient. He did not think about the past. He did not plan the future. The present stayed wide and empty. Later, he stepped outside. The door opened softly. The air greeted him, then ignored him. The dirt path felt familiar. He walked, not far, not fast. The houses watched quietly. He passed by the same stone wall. Again. The sky stayed pale. Clouds did not move much. He stopped, stood still. There was nothing to observe, nothing to solve. After a while he turned back. Inside the house, shadows had shifted slightly. The day moved forward, without marking time. He prepared food, simple, plain. He ate, slowly, each bite equal. No taste stood out. He cleaned, placed things back. Everything returned to its place. The afternoon arrived gently. The man sat near the window. Light rested on the floor. Dust moved slowly in the air. He watched it without interest. Minutes blended together. His breathing slowed. In, out. His body relaxed. Nothing disturbed the quiet. The sun lowered slightly. He stood again. Walked a few steps, then stopped. There was nowhere to go, so he stayed. Later he lay down, not to sleep, just to rest. His eyes closed halfway. Thoughts did not form. Time passed unnoticed. When he opened his eyes again, the room looked the same. Only the light had changed. He sat up, moved. The evening arrived without ceremony. He prepared another simple meal, ate, no hurry. He cleaned, wiped the table. The candle waited. He lit it. The flame stood still. He watched it. The flame did not dance. Minutes passed. The candle shortened. The room remained quiet. The man felt calm, heavy. Eventually he blew out the flame. Darkness returned. He lay down. The bed supported him. His breathing deepened. In, out. The night held him. Nothing asked for attention. Nothing mattered. Sleep arrived gently, and the world stayed silent. The night did not end suddenly. It stayed. Quiet, wide. The man slept without dreams. Or maybe the dreams were too soft to remember. His breathing stayed slow, even, in, out. Nothing disturbed him. When his eyes opened, there was no urgency, no alarm, no thought. Light entered the room gently, not enough to wake the walls. He stayed still, letting the moment pass over him. His body felt heavy, comfortably heavy. After a long while, he moved. just slightly. He sat up, paused. The room waited. He placed his feet on the floor. The floor felt the same as always, cool, solid. He stood, not fully awake, not fully asleep. The window showed a pale sky, the same pale sky. He did not analyze it. He simply saw it. He walked slowly, each step familiar. The chair stood where it always stood. The table remained unchanged. He sat, then stood again. There was no plan. Time moved forward quietly. He drank water, small sips. The cup returned to its place. He opened the door, stepped outside. The village did not greet him. It did not need to. The path stretched ahead, empty. He walked, then stopped. Nothing pulled him further. The air felt still. He listened. There was nothing to hear. After a moment he turned back. Inside, the room accepted him again. He sat near the wall. His back relaxed. Minutes passed, then more minutes. They blended together. The light changed slightly. He noticed without caring. His thoughts remained distant. They came, then left. He stood again, moved toward the table, prepared simple food. The motions were slow, automatic. He ate. One bite, pause, another bite. Nothing tasted strong. He cleaned, placed everything back. The day rested in the middle. He stood near the window, watched dust move. Dust did not hurry, neither did he. His breathing slowed further, in, out. The afternoon felt long, but length did not matter. He lay down, not to sleep, just to exist. The ceiling remained quiet. His eyes closed, opened, closed again. Time continued. Eventually, he sat up. The room had darkened slightly. He moved without thinking, prepared another small meal, ate, cleaned. Routine completed itself. The evening arrived, softly. He lit the candle. The flame stayed calm. He watched it. The flame did not flicker much. Minutes passed. The candle shortened. The room grew dim. He felt calm, heavy. There was nothing to remember, nothing to worry about. The night settled. He lay down again. The bed held him. His breathing deepened. In, out. Thoughts slowed. The world became distant. Sound faded. Time stopped asking questions. Sleep arrived slowly, gently. The night continued. Nothing changed. Nothing needed to. The night was already there. It did not arrive. It did not announce itself. It simply existed. The man was resting, not thinking, not remembering. His breathing was slow, soft, in, out. The room was quiet, so quiet that even silence felt calm. He did not move. There was no reason to. The bed held him gently. Time passed, without shape, without number. Nothing pulled his attention. The world stayed far away. His thoughts were no longer clear words. They were soft impressions. Then even those faded. The body relaxed further, shoulders loosened, jaw softened. Breathing became deeper, in, out. The night did not change. Somewhere far away, time continued, but not here. Here, everything was still. The room remained dark, comfortably dark. No sound entered. No memory returned. The man turned slightly, not fully awake, not aware. Then stillness again. Minutes passed, or hours. It did not matter. Sleep wrapped itself around him. Not suddenly, not deeply, gently, like a slow wave. His breathing found a rhythm. In, out, in, out. The body followed, the mind followed, everything slowed. There was no story now, no village, no room, only rest. The sense of weight disappeared. The sense of effort disappeared. Even awareness softened. Breathing continued on its own. The night stayed quiet, safe, still. Nothing asked for attention. Nothing needed response. The world waited outside, but here there was sleep, deep, unbroken. The mind drifted, floating, not holding on, letting go. Each breath slower than before. In, out. The darkness felt gentle, not empty, comforting, like a familiar place. Sleep deepened, thoughts no longer formed, only calm remained. The body rested fully, the mind rested fully. Nothing moved, nothing changed, everything was complete. The night continued, and sleep stayed, long, quiet, timeless. Nothing needed to begin, because sleep was already there. There was no moment of crossing, no clear line, only continuation. Breathing moved on its own. Slow, quiet, in, out. The body stayed heavy, comfortably heavy. The bed supported everything. Arms rested, legs rested, even effort rested. The mind did not ask questions. There was no curiosity, no images, no words, only a soft sense of being held. Time moved, but not in a way that mattered. Seconds did not count. Minutes did not announce themselves. Everything blended together. The night stayed exactly the same. Dark, safe, still. Breathing became even slower, in, out. Each breath felt deeper than the last. The chest rose gently, then settled. The body followed the rhythm. Nothing interrupted, no sound entered, no memory returned. Sleep was smooth, even, unbroken. The mind drifted further, not down, not away, just softer. Awareness faded more. As if the edges dissolved, there was no need to hold anything, no need to listen, no need to understand. Sleep did everything by itself. The body trusted it, the mind trusted it. Stillness remained, quiet remained, the night remained. Breathing continued, in, out, long pauses between breaths, comfortable pauses. Nothing felt rushed, nothing felt late. Everything was exactly where it needed to be. Sleep deepened again, not suddenly, gradually, layer by layer. The world outside stayed far away, very far. Here there was only rest, only calm, only the slow rhythm of breath, in, out. The darkness felt warm now, protective, familiar. The body did not move, the mind did not wander. Everything stayed settled. The night continued. Sleep continued, and nothing needed to change. And still, nothing needed to happen. Sleep was already there. No new thought arrived, no signal was given. The body stayed exactly as it was, heavy, warm, supported. Breathing continued quietly. In, out, long and slow. The chest moved gently, then rested again. There was no effort in it. The breath knew what to do. The body trusted the breath. The mind trusted the stillness. Everything stayed simple, very simple. The night did not change. The darkness stayed soft, safe, unmoving. Time passed, but without shape. No before, no after, just now. And even now felt unnecessary. The mind drifted deeper, not traveling, not imagining, just loosening, like a knot slowly undoing itself. Thoughts did not form. Words did not appear. Only a quiet blankness remained, comfortable, familiar. The body sank a little more, as if the bed welcomed it further. Every muscle stayed relaxed, jaw loose, shoulders dropped, hands open, nothing held, nothing needed holding. Breathing slowed again, in, out, even slower than before. Each pause between breaths felt longer, but never uncomfortable, just calm, very calm. The mind stayed distant, far from effort, far from memory, far from planning. Sleep deepened without asking, layer by layer, softly, silently. The night held everything together. No sound entered, no movement disturbed. The body remained still. The mind remained quiet. Everything stayed settled. There was no awareness of listening, no awareness of words, only the gentle rhythm of breath, in, out. The darkness felt complete now, not empty, just full of rest. The body felt safe. The mind felt safe. Sleep continued, unbroken, smooth, effortless. Nothing pulled attention back, nothing asked for response. The world stayed far away, very far. Here, only calm existed, only rest existed, only sleep existed. Breathing continued softly. In, out. The body stayed heavy, comfortably heavy, as if sinking slightly deeper with each breath. The mind loosened even more, edges fading, awareness thinning, until there was almost nothing left to notice. Just being, just resting, just sleeping. Time flowed quietly, without counting, without direction. The night stayed unchanged, and that sameness felt peaceful, reassuring, nothing surprising, nothing new, just continuation. Sleep remained deep, the breath remained slow, the body remained still, the mind remained quiet. Everything stayed exactly where it needed to be. No transition was felt, no ending was noticed. Sleep simply went on, and on, and on, and still, everything remained the same. Nothing shifted, nothing changed. Sleep stayed exactly where it was. Deep, quiet, uninterrupted. The body did not move. The breath continued softly. In, out, slow, gentle, natural. There was no effort in breathing. No thought guiding it. The body simply knew. And the mind allowed it. The darkness felt steady, not closing in, not opening up, just present, comfortably present. Time continued to pass without shape, without numbers, without direction. The mind did not follow time. It stayed distant, loose, resting. Thoughts did not arrive. If they tried, they faded before forming, like mist dissolving quietly. Nothing needed attention. Nothing called for awareness. The body remained heavy, supported fully, as if held gently in place. Every muscle stayed relaxed. No tension returned. No movement appeared. The jaw remained loose, the forehead smooth, the shoulders rested low. Hands remained open, still, calm. Breathing slowed again, in, out. Even quieter now, the pauses between breaths stretched softly, never forced, never uncomfortable, just slow, just easy. The mind drifted deeper into sleep, not traveling, not imagining, just sinking, deeper into nothingness, deeper into rest. The world outside felt extremely far away, too far to matter, too distant to reach. Here, only sleep existed, only softness, only calm. The night remained unchanged. That sameness felt reassuring, predictable, safe, nothing surprising, nothing demanding. Sleep continued naturally, layer after layer, without effort, without awareness. The body accepted rest fully. The mind let go even more. Edges softened, awareness thinned, until noticing became unnecessary. Breathing continued, in, out. The rhythm stayed slow, very slow, almost automatic. The chest rose gently, then rested, then rose again. Everything else stayed still, completely still. The darkness felt deep now, not empty, just full of rest. The mind stayed quiet, the body stayed calm. Sleep stayed unbroken. Nothing interrupted the flow, nothing pulled attention back. No sound entered, no movement disturbed. The night held everything together, secure, steady, unchanging. Sleep felt endless, not long, not short, just continuous. Time disappeared further. No sense of beginning, no sense of ending, only continuation, only rest, only sleep. Breathing softened again. In, out, barely noticeable. The body felt deeply settled now, as if it could not sink any further, yet still felt supported. The mind remained distant, far from words, far from images, far from thought. Nothing formed, nothing needed to. Sleep became the only state. No awareness of listening, no awareness of sound, just quiet presence, just deep rest. The night stayed calm, the darkness stayed gentle. Everything remained exactly the same. and that sameness carried sleep forward, minute after minute, hour after hour, without disruption, without effort. Sleep continued naturally, unbroken, smooth, stable. There was no signal to wake, no reason to move, no thought to follow, only rest, only breathing, in, out. The body stayed heavy, the mind stayed quiet, sleep stayed deep. Nothing changed, nothing needed to, and sleep simply went on, softly, silently, endlessly, and even now, nothing shifted. Sleep remained exactly where it was. There was no signal, no change, no movement, only the same quiet stillness, the same calm darkness, the same gentle rhythm of breath, in, out, slow, soft, unforced. Breathing continued without thought, without guidance, without awareness. The body stayed completely at rest, as if it had forgotten how to move, as if movement was unnecessary. The muscles remained loose, the joints felt supported, nothing tightened, nothing stirred. The face stayed relaxed, the mouth rested gently, the eyes remained still behind closed lids, the forehead stayed smooth, everything felt settled, deeply settled. Sleep did not deepen anymore because it did not need to. It was already complete, already full, already steady. The mind did not wander, it did not explore, it did not imagine. It simply stayed quiet, empty in a peaceful way, the kind of emptiness that feels safe, the kind that allows rest to continue endlessly. Time moved forward without being noticed. Minutes passed quietly, then more minutes, then hours, all without awareness, all without interruption. The night remained unchanged, and that sameness felt comforting, reliable, predictable. Nothing new arrived, nothing left. Sleep stayed constant. The breathing softened even further. In, out, barely there. The pauses between breaths felt longer, yet natural, never uncomfortable, never forced, just slow, just calm. The body accepted this rhythm fully. The mind stayed distant, far from words, far from sound, far from meaning. If awareness tried to rise, it faded again immediately, like a ripple disappearing on still water. Sleep held everything gently. The darkness felt thick now, not heavy, just quiet, just smooth. Nothing pressed in, nothing pulled away. Everything remained balanced, stable, still. There was no beginning anymore, no ending, only continuation, only rest, only sleep. The body remained supported, as if resting on something perfectly shaped. No pressure points, no discomfort, just even support. The mind stayed silent. No inner voice, no commentary, no memory, no planning, nothing to follow, nothing to hold. Sleep became the only state. Awareness dissolved further, until listening itself was unnecessary. The sound blended into nothing. The words lost form, meaning disappeared. Only softness remained. Breathing continued, in, out, slow, quiet, automatic. The chest rose gently, then settled, then rose again. Everything else stayed still, completely still. The night stretched on, unchanging, comforting in its sameness. Sleep flowed smoothly, without waves, without edges, without disturbance. The mind did not return, the body did not move. Nothing pulled attention back, nothing interrupted rest. Sleep held steady, minute after minute, hour after hour, with no awareness of passing time. The darkness stayed consistent, the calm stayed complete, the silence stayed gentle. Everything remained exactly as it was, and that was enough. No instruction was needed, no effort was required. Sleep continued on its own, naturally, easily, endlessly. The body rested deeply, the mind remained absent. Breathing stayed slow, in, out, soft, quiet, steady. Nothing changed, nothing needed to. Sleep simply stayed, and stayed, and stayed, and still nothing changed. Sleep remained exactly the same calm, the same quiet, the same stillness. There was no signal that time had moved, no sense of earlier, no sense of later, only the continuation of rest. Breathing stayed slow. In, out, soft, barely noticeable. The body did not adjust, it did not stretch, it did not shift. It simply stayed, fully supported, fully relaxed. The weight of the body felt evenly distributed. Nothing pressed, nothing pulled. Everything felt balanced, stable. The muscles stayed loose, the shoulders rested naturally, the arms felt heavy, the hands remained still, the legs felt warm, completely at ease, the feet stayed relaxed. No tension returned, no thought appeared. The mind did not form words, it did not imagine, it did not wander, it did not remember, it stayed absent, peacefully absent, as if awareness itself had stepped away. Breathing continued, in, out, slow, automatic, effortless. The pauses between breaths remained gentle, unforced, comfortable. Nothing interrupted this rhythm, nothing needed attention, nothing required response. The darkness stayed consistent, not heavy, not empty, just calm, just quiet. The sound blended into the background, then blended even further. Until it was no longer noticed, words lost shape, then lost meaning, then disappeared completely. Only the feeling of rest remained. Time passed without being measured. Minutes dissolved quietly, then more minutes, then hours, all without awareness. Sleep stayed steady, not deeper, not lighter, just constant, reliable, predictable, the kind of sleep that does not shift, the kind that holds all night. The body remained calm, the heart stayed steady, the breath stayed slow, everything stayed regulated, nothing startled the system, nothing caused alertness, nothing invited waking. If awareness tried to rise, it softened again immediately, like mist settling back onto still ground. Sleep reclaimed everything gently. There was no need to guide, no need to explain, no need to follow. Rest continued on its own, naturally, quietly, without effort. The night stretched on, smooth, unbroken, unchanging. The sameness felt comforting, safe, familiar. There was no anticipation of morning, no sense of future, no sense of past, only now. And even that faded. Breathing remained the only movement. In, out, slow, soft, barely there. The chest rose gently, then settled, then rose again. Everything else stayed still. The body accepted this stillness fully. The mind stayed distant, silent, unavailable. Rest held everything together. Sleep flowed evenly, without waves, without edges, without interruptions. Nothing changed, nothing needed to change. Sleep was complete, already finished, already full, already steady. The sound continued, but it no longer mattered. Listening was unnecessary, awareness was unnecessary. Sleep existed on its own, independent, stable, endless. The body rested deeply, the mind remained absent. Breathing stayed slow, in, out, soft, quiet, steady. The darkness stayed calm, the silence stayed gentle. Everything remained exactly as it was, and that was enough. Sleep continued, without instruction, without awareness, without end. And it stayed that way, minute after minute, hour after hour, through the entire night, unchanged, uninterrupted, complete.